Hello, Mossy. And hello, everyone. I am the last Omnitect, your favorite robot American. And welcome to another session of OMNI Draws. That should be OMNI Draws. There we are. Look at that. It wouldn't be a live stream if we didn't have to have some clear and obvious issues. So, I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm adjusting the audio to make sure everything is good. Let's take a moment to talk about what our plan is for today. Just very quickly. Slightly reduce the audio there. There we go. Okay. Let's pop on to our thing over here. Make sure this works. Face cam, we good? Beautiful. Let's go. Feels like I haven't spoken to you or seen you in ages because I missed Chill VC and stream yesterday. Yeah, it happens, buddy. For those of you who don't know, you can actually check out my Discord. Please feel free to follow me up on Blue Sky and all that. You can find all my links down below. And on Discord every week, we actually have a hangout time where we just relax and chill and talk. And it sort of naturally happens, sometimes on a Tuesday. Yeah, no, it's fine, Mossy. This past week I've been very melancholic, so we're good. Speaking of, I should let my hair down. I can feel that pulling my brain. So, today I want to do a little bit of art regarding, well, mechs in Legacy. Namely, the one walker I have dreaded drawing for a while now. And that would be a Treadleg walker. So, fun little fact on this, as I've mentioned before, walkers come in multiple varieties in Legacy based on their leg type. And Treadlegs are exactly what they sound like. Treaded legs, usually. Kind of like a slightly more mobile version of caterpillar treads on a tank. Got it from work at 10 p.m. yesterday. It was rough. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're not doing that today. I figured you were having a rough day yesterday. It's good to have you, buddy. But yes, so Legacy has all these older mech designs that I haven't used in a hot minute. I want to make sure that we're on the right page. There we go. So this is an actual, like, quick doodle I did in one of my sketch pads when I was out and about. I didn't even have time to finish it, sadly. But it's not my first drawing of a Treadleg. I believe, actually, if I go to my Constructs, Avatars section, a little further back, because I've drawn these things before, it's just a matter of finding it. These are old drawings, mind you. Very old drawings. In fact, so old, I seem to be struggling to find them. I know I've drawn them before, just wondering where it is. Huh. You know, folks, this might be the first time I've ever had it where a piece of art hasn't just disappeared, it might have been destroyed. I might have lost this art. Well, that's sad. That's very sad, actually. Alright, well, we can move forward. So, Treadlegs are exactly what they sound like. They terminate in stumpy little robot legs. It's kind of their whole shtick, and it works pretty well for them. The best comparison I can give you, if you're looking for, like, an equivalent for what the design would be represented in, like, actual art, and this makes me a little sad, but would probably be, I promise I will show you in a second. I just want to see a good image of it. Yeah, I hate to be the one to reference it, but probably Bayformers. Probably Bayformers. Finding the good image that I need is almost impossible because everyone cuts the feet off of the damn thing. But, okay, fine. I'll open this up and we'll see. Yeah, here we go. Okay, this'll do. So you can actually see Treadlegs on display down here. Of course, I'm still cut off from the bottom, so just give me a minute. There we are. So I actually put them in visual cue for you guys. So you can actually see that they start terminating these horrifying chains that go all the way up the knees and the legs. This is a really convoluted and fancy way of doing it. But a Treadleg is basically the same concept. It isn't always humanoid legs, obviously. Usually it's closer to a tripod or a quadruped, but it's just as often, you know, what we would consider like a bipedal design. But the real big trick is these are heavy earth-churning treads that move the vehicle, move the walker around kind of like really heavy skates. Unlike actual legs, however, these things are really more like, a better way to describe it would be more like wheels with a really good, or like treads with like a really good suspension system, which allows them to literally lift over obstacles. They can still fight and walk and kick and do that kind of thing, but it's the end of the day is still kind of a tank that's allowed to move with its legs. And hello, Paul. Yes, many tippy taps, actually. As I do all the tipping and tapping. So, we're going to draw the Atlas today, which is the heaviest class of walker that our players can get right out of the gate with the core legacy rules. Let me open this up and put this at 100. So you can see we have a little doodle in the back of like what it would look like in profile. I'm just going to put this over here in the top left. And we're just going to sort of put it on the side. Put it over here. Just get out of the way. Get out of the way. He's over there. He's doing fine. It's good to see you, Paul. Honestly, it's just really nice to see you guys. It feels like I've been crazy isolated the past couple days. Why is this blue? Oh, I see. For some reason it was weirdly blue. I don't know why. Okay. So, let's get our legs going. So, usually Treadlegs have a really heavy center of mass. Their whole big, like, winning trait, if you were to give them any discernible trait, is that they are basically impossible to shift. Is that a bike chain? Love the idea that he can be taken out much moving a single link. Oh, apparently they get ripped off during the movie and he still kicks the shit out of people. It's horrifying stuff. So yeah, no, honestly, I really like the idea of Treadlegs because it also gives you a natural weapon built in the machine. So we're just going to go in here, and I'm going to do my best to sort of capture the aesthetic as much as I can. There we go. Get this as far back as we can muster it. And then towards the very back, this thing is like a mono tread that sort of comes down and helps stabilize it in the back. Basically to prevent it from getting knocked around. That's the big thing. These things have a couple of unique rules. So let's open our core rulebook here, or at least the Atlas, I should say. The Arsenal, as it's called. And look at our friend, the Atlas. So if we zoom in here to about 150, we can actually see... Hey, let's make it 200. Make it clear as day for everyone to observe. Cool. So, this thing is slow, but it is powerful. It has the highest output, which is basically the mech's might or strength equivalent. So how hard it hits in a fight, how much it can push. It has the highest output of any walker in the game at the moment, short of like a super heavy walker, which is a D20 plus 6. That's 12 ranks into its output, which is really high. That's actually the max you can achieve by normal array in this game. Like, basically, you can't get higher than a D20 plus 6 unless you do something really crazy. Usually, like, super heavy augmentation, advanced technology, what have you. This mech starts at that. It also has a structure of D20, which is the highest natural base rank you can get in what would be considered an attribute. It has a solid processor at D12, actually. It's not that bad. And it gives its pilot a bravery of D20, which basically means when you pilot it, you feel very brave. What a surprise. You're like in a moving fortress. Unfortunately, it comes at the expense of having a single rank in handling. It's very bad at handling. But in exchange, what you get for it, despite having a pace of only 4, you have Relentless and Braced 8. What Relentless means is basically that it basically ignores terrain. It's kind of like the floatwing keyword, except in this particular instance, it doesn't prevent you from taking damage. It just means you don't get slowed by or hindered by terrain effects. Difficult terrain, stuff like that, does not impact you. Hazardous terrain still can, but any movement restrictions from terrain don't apply to you. Likewise, Braced 8 means that if this thing gets hit by a push or a shove effect, gets knocked around, it falls, what have you, it reduces that by 8. So if it gets pushed 8 squares, no it doesn't. It stays right the fuck where it is, and it doesn't move at all. It makes these things incredibly hard to shift. Finally, we have our defense, armor, stability, maximum system damage, and max reactor capacity. Its defense is abysmal. It has 4 defense. It will be hit by everything that vaguely throws a rock at it. But its armor is a 20, so it has basically 20 ticks of damage reduction. I'm going to slightly reduce my own audio because I'm surprisingly loud. So this thing reduces all incoming damage by 20 before armor penetration modifiers apply, which is pretty nuts. It has a stability of 5, which means it can fire the heaviest weapons in the game with no problem. It has 80 system damage, which is effectively health. Its 8 pool is 80. So in order to kill it, with one attack, you would need to hit it, and then do 100 points of damage, assuming you had a weapon with 0 penetration. That's 100 points of damage out of the gate in one attack to kill it. Or any number of attacks that add up to 100 plus 20 for every attack. So the more this thing gets attacked, the more durable it becomes. And then finally, its max reactor capacity is surprisingly high. Its recharge rate isn't that great, but it's pretty good. Long and short, this thing is a tank, literally. And it's made to be that way. It's the same size as all other constructs. It's size 2, so it fits in a 2x2 square on a battlefield. And it has 2 manipulators. Like almost all the constructs here, all the walkers actually have the ability to have hands. Think Battletech rules. Your expectation is that you have hands. I don't know why, personally, but that is kind of like a commonly expected thing in Battletech. So, I say this as someone who loves Battletech and still does not understand that convention entirely. So that is what the Atlas is, at least from a stat perspective. What the Atlas is from a lore perspective is one of the oldest, most dangerous mechs probably used in humanity's initial rebellion phase. So there was a little period right after humanity started taking to the stars that was called the Faction Wars. It took about 200 years to sort out, but during that time, humanity kind of realized they didn't really like the way things were going. Sometime roughly in the early, in the mid to late 21st century or so. Not crossing my fingers or anything for it. It was a pretty horrible time in Legacy. I don't think anyone should want it. But it does happen in this setting. And during that time, basically a bunch of governments rose up out of nowhere to overthrow the existing ones and argue, instead of who owns what plot of land, where humanity should be going, what our plans should be, what does our future hold, what should our future hold, what would the future look like now that humanity's going into space. All those fun questions started happening. And now we're going to get our walker's limbs, because I want this thing to have nice stumpy limbs. There we go. We're going to reinforce that, actually, just a little bit more. There we go. Make it a little bit bulkier. Nice. Okay. So that gives us a good silhouette of what we're working with here for this particular walker. So these things emerged as one of the first weaponized walkers that humanity invented. Originally designed as the baseline of an actual crane, or really more like industrial equipment, they realized they could actually just sort of rejigger it, add a whole crapload more armor onto it, and the thing becomes surprisingly durable. So that gives us the history of these walkers. About 400 years later, we're still using variations of these things. It's kind of like the caterpillar or the car. You don't reinvent the wheel, you just slightly evolve it over time. The modern versions are more durable, more resistant to heat. They're designed as more of an all-terrain kind of thing, and also usually used less by purely humans. So their control scheme is a little bit more optimized than it used to be. After all, anybody can pilot one of these things, even a sylph. I'm looking at you, Paul. Looking directly into your soul. Right at you. You have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm sure. I'm sure no one has any clue what I'm talking about. No one out there in chat knows. So, This thing is built like a little tank, and I love it for that. It's one of my favorite mechs in the whole setting because it's so stumpy. It's got like this really kind of squat body plan thing going for it. Also, I should make sure that there's like a human to scale for this thing. Just so we can see how big they are. It's fine. There's like one to the side here. This thing is probably about 25 feet tall, so looking at it, 5, 10, 15, 20, 20... It's about 20, so 22, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. That's about right. So we'd be looking at down here. I'm just going to take a person. We're just going to make a little person. There we go. That gives us a vague shape. How big a person is. Wow, that head is huge. Person's got a massive skull. We'll say that they are wearing a. We'll say they were wearing a helmet or something. I don't know. There we go. And we're gonna just take that. And just give some boots down here. Nice. Alright, that gives us a slightly better perspective on how big this thing is. There we go. Person to scale. We're going to say this is about a 5 to 6 foot person. And I'm just going to call this person. Cool. So this is roughly how large human is to scale on this thing. It's pretty beefy, actually. We're going to go over here. Let's start adding some actual shapes to here. So we need to get a separate knee plate. Going over here. We'll do the same thing here. There we are. We're going to have one spar going up, one spar underneath. Because again, these things are kind of like construction equipment, so I want them to read like construction equipment. Lots of like exposed rebar and steel, where basically the whole thing is just an armored block. There's not really much need to add extra armor onto something so rugged and durable. Here we go, so we've got that. So I'm just adding a couple like vague shapes here, which we can straighten out as we need. And this is us just sort of messing around with it. Now every leg type has its purpose in Legacy. There's no such thing as like the alpha leg that's just better than everything else. Every walker is built to task. So like float wings are super nimble. They're made to like jut in and out of combat. They're really made to be like high-speed interdictors, and you can use them as whatever you want, but they're built around that premise. Likewise, if you use like if you wanted to use like a gyro wheel, but you wanted to make it into a high-speed mech, you could. Like they're capable of it. All these mechs have like a function that it's built around, and it's optimized to. And for the Treadleg, it's optimized primarily to take hits and grind over your enemies. That's really the big trick with these things. They're made to be impossible to shift. Both metaphorically and literally. These things are incredibly resilient to damage. We're just going to sort of put that up there. I'm going to put one going up here. And then I'm going to put some like joins in here, so you can sort of see like how it connects. And then put the tread going back. Cool, so you've already got like sort of the vague shapes of the armor down. Beautiful. Look at that. We can actually fix some of this too. I can see I was a little off on my perspective there, so I can sort of just fix this a little. Here we go. Now the funny thing is, the human faction war actually ended in kind of, not really a stalemate, but an agreed upon peace. Technically, if one of the factions survived, it would probably be It's like one particular faction. I would probably say it was the Alliance. They're kind of the... They were kind of the ones who were like, we're going to sort of combine the ideas from all the other factions into one, which is why they sort of won. They won basically by splitting the difference. But there's a lot of folks who still swear by the Chromium Directive, who are the guys who made this thing. And that's in no small part because the Chromium Directive had access to a lot of industrial equipment and technology. Their whole base was built around, like, this kind of super durable weapon system. Because basically these guys were the ultimate, I suppose the proper way to describe them would be populists, in a way. They were populists who sought to replicate a healthier method of creating elites. Which is, I would say, the wrong way to do it, but also, I'm just the creator. What word does my opinion have here? You all can make your own versions of these settings, but basically they created what they called the Chromium Directive. Which basically comes to a very simple, logical standpoint, which is, the best should rise to the top. Those who are most capable should have the most tasks and the most work and be given the most respect and the most, also, effort. Basically, the most powerful, the most skilled and competent people should rise to the top and do the most. Whereas those who can't be as effective should be given less to do. It doesn't make you less important. It doesn't make you less impactful into society. As far as they're concerned, actually doing more than you're capable of, pushing yourself beyond what you can do, that's laudable. That's a good thing. And anyone can theoretically grow. But endangering others with your ambition, that's not a healthy thing. Their whole faction is built around the idea that if you end up in power, it should be because you're well positioned to use it for the better of others, and that you demonstrate competency. The idea of people being born into power flies in the face of the Chromium Directive. The idea that that which is untarnished is that which is tempered. That you can't rule without being capable of proving your ability to rule. No one should be just given a throne. In a funny way, I think a lot of anti-monarchists would have a lot in common with the Chromium Directive. Unfortunately, their solution was to create what was effectively a stratified, basically a stratified social structure. So that was kind of their solution. Their solution was, oh, we don't want to have a bunch of elites ruling us. Instead, we want to make a new class of elites. On the positive, though, unlike the current structure, they sort of, this new form of their gentry actually did have to be a little more invested in what was going on with the average person. So, like, basic social services were expected. The average person was not expected to needlessly suffer for no reason. So they're already better than most governments that we had now. There's a reason their doctrine sort of appealed to a lot of people, is that they were capable of, like, empathy. But unfortunately, they still did have some serious issues culturally in regards to sort of a supremacist ideology. That idea that some people rise to the top over others naturally is kind of inherently tied to a lot of the, like, destined man logic, which is kind of shitty. They didn't win the faction wars, but they came very close to winning for a while because of the fact that basically their ideology allowed theoretically anyone to rise to power. Other factions denied power structures like that altogether. The Mirage Collective actually flew in the face of everything that the Chromium Directive believed in. And rightly so. But at the same time, for those who were tamped down under the heels of others for a long time, hearing that you could be the people leading because you're competent, that's a pretty appealing cry. Think of it as like every person who's ever said, man, I could do better. Yeah, that's basically this faction. This whole faction was the I can do better faction. I could run this place better. Are you kidding me? And then, you know, they were given a chance to. And they actually didn't do too terrible. However, it still had a lot of unfortunate problems. Not the least of which being that those who were hyper competent ended up rising to the top and isolating themselves from those below. And, well, wait, is this all in the systems layer? Fuck me. Well, I guess this is the detail layer now. Yeah. So that's kind of the whole problem with their faction. But their technology persists. The Chromium Directive, the Alliance Initiative, the Mirage... the Chromium Directive, Alliance Initiative, the Mirage Collective, and several dozen other factions all eventually broke apart once the new, like, Commonwealth of Humankind was established. And now they are basically corporations. Working, you know, in whatever field they originally came from. Which they originally did come from, well, corporations. And social movements that were built on the backs of or what we would consider, like, non-traditional sources. They're not really truly corporations. They're more like they were social movements that grew within the foundries of existing, like, enterprises. And in fairness, mostly because the actual, like, owners of those enterprises were the hell okay with it. They approved of it wholeheartedly. So it's not like, you know, these folks took over these factories without the permission of their owners. They willingly were complicit. In fact, many of them were, in fact, leaders of these subfactions. Alright, so let's add some more design in here. Oh, hold on. Little too little. There we go. You want it to be just a hair darker. There we go. So this thing's got a nice rotating gimbal for a mid-torso. It's got a lot of heavy plating. It's pretty sturdy, this thing is. In its modern version, a lot of these machines are ostensibly sold to people with the understanding that they are industrial equipment. However, industrial equipment often ends up in the hands of guilders, who often use it for warfare. And, you know, that's fair. A lot of guilders struggle to maintain their rights and their authority and their power locally. And so, like, you know, well, when Pinkertons come knocking on your door, have a crane that can punch someone, or grab a rivet gun and defend a position, basically. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a start. Especially in certain parts of the Avanti sector, where you have, like, factions like the Joint Syndicate Authority, who basically are they literally are a corporate state. Alright, so let's take this here. Sword. Give him a sword. I might give him a sword. We'll see. How you doing, buddy? Let's see. I'm just gonna pop this here. Now, the big thing is, because these things are made primarily for industrial work, they're super good at carrying heavy weapons and equipment, and they have enough reactor juice to basically power any system you want to slap on them. Not because their reactors are super powerful, mind you. It's actually kind of the opposite. It's really more along the lines of the fact that these things are just so well made, they don't really take much power draw. They're super efficient. Treadlegs actually take a lot of mass to get going, but once they get going, they basically keep going. So it allows them to have an economy of motion that other machines don't have. Pinkertons come knocking, give them a sword. Damn straight about that. Absolutely. When the Pinkertons come knocking, knock them back. Is reactor juice the technical term? Well, I mean... Honestly, considering most reactors are powered by Grenda particles, which are actually usually held in a liquid state, I can see someone using that term. Like me, a wildly uneducated man. But yeah, no. Their reactors are just basically made for heavy industrial work, and the machines are so energy efficient that it just lets them use whatever you want. You need to run a particle accelerator off of this thing? Sure, this thing is designed to move hundreds of tons of metal without support. Like, of course it can power a particle accelerator. Its reactor barely needs to turn on to move this thing. Alright, let's start getting some shapes going on here. Some of that sick-ass shape language. Okay. For a second, it sounded like you said Grendel juice, and I'm wondering, you milking mythological beast? What kind of mech is this? No, this is not Lancer. If we were playing Lancer, yes. No. So, fun little detail about the lore of Legacy. A lot of the figures and folks are actually people that helped me long time ago in various games that I ran for my friends actually make the concepts for the setting. I sort of came up with an idea for a charged particle reactor, and I happen to have a friend who was at the time, and I know not a particle physicist, but he was actually an astrophysicist. He was training to be an astrophysicist. And so I ran the numbers by him. He's like, actually, that makes sense. This technology seems to make a little bit of sense. And so, like, after we did a rough pass. I didn't actually invent anything crazy. I created a science fiction concept that conceptually works. It's like Star Trek's warp drive. Conceptually, it works in, like, a scientific framework. Just enough for it to hold water and weight. For, like, logic, basically. You can apply logic to it. It has an internal, consistent weight. That's the big detail here. And so, yeah. That person went by the name Grenda. And so, hence, the Grenda particle reactor canonically is made by a professor by the name of Grenda. Long dead now, by the way. He invented everything during the faction wars in Legacy. So, like, it's been 400 years. The dude is no longer here. He's no longer home. Yeah, so there you go. There's a fun little peek into the history of the game. Now, let's get some other little details going. So I kind of like the idea that the head is like a disc. Sort of shaped like a cake. Like a multi-layer cake. Here we go. And now we add a little definition to this. I'm actually going to add a little more definition to this than I already have. We're going to push it a little further out. And we're going to pull it down. So we can get some really, like, creepy eyes in there. Some creepy, glowy eyes. Maybe a metal chin in that. So we got a general shape going. And we'll do the same thing here. Beautiful. Okay. So that gives us a vague dimension to work with here. Shrek voice, layers. I got layers! And no, you know what? No, I can't. I fucking can't. I know too many Scottish people who would grab me and drag me behind a tractor. No, I'm not gonna do it. I could be tempted to do it, but I won't do it. I refuse to do it. I refuse to do it. It's like doing a Mexican voice. I know way too many Mexicans to do that voice without getting instantly dragged. I do not need that. Nor do I want to, for that record. I'm just grateful that I had an Australian, like, straight up contact me and say, please keep doing Gentry. And I was like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really nice. I'm not Australian. Let it always be said, I'm not Australian. Okay, so we can take this, and we can sort of round this off here. Alright, cool. Beautiful. So we got some shapes here. We got some shapes here. Beautiful. And that gives us a nice, well-defined shape. We can build armor plates around. And then we have the treads themselves, which I'm going to sort of just bring around here, straighten that out a little bit. Cool. Now the armor on these things is, again, kind of like caterpillar tracks that you would normally see on construction equipment. It's just really rugged. Basically Space Caterpillar. And you're not too far off. Here we go. I'm going to put this here, and we're just going to slightly pull this in. There we go. We're going to do the same thing back here. And then I'm going to do my best to try to pull in the track here. I literally just sort of... You guys saw me. I sort of scuffed drawing this up a little bit. Which is the point. You're drawing on like a rough sketch layer. You're blocking. You're not supposed to be doing detail work. That comes later. Cool. I'm gonna move the text down a little bit too. It's sort of interfering. This is another way you can tell it's also like the bulkiest mech. Is I can bring up almost any other mech to scale, and it will in fact be smaller, the way I've drawn it. Now this thing is actually about as big, but it's just not quite as tall. So I would actually say that this whole thing has got to shrink a little bit, but we'll get it done when we'll get it done. I wanted to get the right scope of it. Let's see, chunking in shapes. Yeah, exactly. It's all about building a silhouette, basically. Everything is silhouettes. Whenever you're drawing and you're doing, like, painting especially, you're not really drawing the thing. You're rendering what it looks like to you. So you vaguely block out where light falls, where darkness covers, and everything is a play of light and shadow. I feel like I need to add some more dark in here, so let's get to it. Nope, not what I wanted to add. There we go. Okay. So let's start bulking out some of these components. I want the arms to be thick. Like, actually kind of thick with two C's. Thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. And the best way I can do that is to give him sort of flower pot forearm, or like, I guess those wouldn't be forearms, those would be like biceps. The flower pot bicep tends to help a little bit. And a little bit of Popeye arm. Not a lot, but like a little bit. This will also help correct some of the weird angles I've got going on here for the arms. And then we do the same thing over here. Our boy eats his spinach. He's Popeye, the Sailor Man. One might say girthy, indeed. Dare I say girthy. Mighty. Swollen with power. Get your heads out of the gutter. But yeah, no. These things are durable as hell. So, I like the way it looks, but I don't like how its lower body looks. We're gonna fix that by adding extra plates onto its legs. This is just kind of where it starts. This is its base form. I kind of want to straighten that arm out a little more. Let's grab this. Actually, let's just grab the whole damn arm. Yoink. Sure. I'll take that little niblet out of the bottom. Oh, there's a person there. I can disconnect that person part. There we go. There we go. That feels a little better. So he's not just holding his arm out and having it bent weirdly. Like, it looks a little more like that arm is more at rest. Which, that works fine. It's amazing how, like, a couple degrees radically changes the posture of a machine. Let's add some more details, shall we? I want to add a little bit of white into some of this. So let's start catching areas where light and dark mix. And outlining this. Put this at 45. There we go. And we can sort of you can sort of throw a little bit of the light here and there where it makes most sense. And just by adding a little bit of edge highlighting here, you get surprisingly good results. Sort of gives almost like a beveled edge sort of look, which works for me. Okay, let's get some internal lighting. Now, I kind of want the Atlas to be cyclopean. So it has this really beefy kind of body to it. It actually is drawing a little bit from some of the art I've drawn in the past of mechs. So, as I've mentioned before, this isn't my first time, like, making these war machines. In fact, we have another chromium directive mech already in the setting, which is the Cyclops Charger. This is an old piece of art I drew way back in the day. I think this is mid-2000s, not 2010s, 2000s. But it's a pretty good gauge as to, like, how, like, there's this rigid brutalism, this construction equipment aesthetic that tends to work pretty much for everything that Chromium Directive makes. Like, it's always got this, like, brutal kind of beat the crap out of you look. Like somebody put it together in a junkyard. It's almost got a Zeonic look to it for you Mobile Suit, for like you Gundam fans out there. But we're not going to quite go with that. We're going to move this over here. But that's sort of what I'm looking for here. This like really rugged kind of battering look to it. So let's get some lighting. I'm going to get an eye in here. We'll have a couple of other eyes on the side. Then we're just going to sort of make like little boxes. There we go. Perfect. So that gives us sort of like the shape I wanted for the head. We got this almost kind of like glowy single eye mono. It's got a real mono eye vibe to it, and I like the mono eye. I think it looks cool. Let's go back into our detail layer. Start adding some shapes. And this is where we get to have a lot of fun. Because it's basically just sort of like, what is going to look cool? This is going to look cool. There we go. So I want this really like armored, shock-proof kind of cockpit. Yeah, I don't like the way that's looking. There we go. That's a little better. Now, because this thing is a more modern Chromium Directive design, I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a more rounded look to it. It is old, but it's been seriously streamlined over many different variations. And you can tell by looking at the serial number on this thing. Whoa, that zoomed out way too far. So you can actually see, most of the mechs and things I have in the game, I give it a serial number or like a model number. So, Chromium Directive, FT Walker, 678M18. That would be the original. That'd be the original template designs. That'd be 6. 78 is an iteration, and M would be modification. So the iterations are kind of like the let's modify the old design and build a new one. So kind of like the sort of like the model numbers you have in a lot of cars, where it's like or the year number almost on like a lot of modern cars. Like I can get a Toyota Corolla, but which year? A 2001 Toyota Corolla, a 2010, and a 2020, they share a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of distinctions. Most of it's evolutionary. And then finally, you have M18, which is the specific modification variations of what is in service now. So it's more like getting a, say, 2026 Toyota Corolla with the latest factory update, like the 18th factory update, basically. Except this is done over the course of centuries, because this technology oftentimes is so good, it just doesn't need to be updated too much. Most of the modifications are done locally. Okay, let's get our groin plate going here. So, one of the most vulnerable points of a machine that has a bipedal stance is often the groin. Knuckles the Echidna was not wrong. The groin is, in fact, the vulnerable point of a target. And in the case of a thing that's humanoid, it actually is a very important thing to keep track of, because there's a lot of weight being borne by your hips. This is the reason why a lot of old folks tend to be most afraid of breaking their hips. It's a great way to die. There's a lot of things that are tangled up in there. As well as also your ability to walk, primarily relies on your hip joints working well. About every other part of your leg can give way, and you could theoretically still hobble around, but if your hip pops, you're not moving to damage. You're dragging yourself by your hands at most. So now that we're in here, I'm going to sort of pop in and just sort of... There we go. There we are. And we pop back in, and this is going to be at 100. Beautiful. Lovely. We're going to do the same thing here. Just like a little bit of detail goes a long way with this. Yeah, that feels fine. So you got this really sort of thick groin plate. Let's get into the actual hips here. Armored, durable, made to take a lot of weight, reinforced. Basically, this thing, I want it to have almost the look of like a weightlifter's belt. Like, have you ever seen the compression belt that weightlifters use? It's mostly to prevent hernias, but also on top of that, it does help them leverage more power into their trunk without injuring themselves. So it's kind of a little bit of both worlds. And I sort of like the idea that that's sort of what this thing's, like, middle armor is. It's a power lifter's belt. This thing is machoke. It's got a belt around its waist so that it can actually lift even better than it already can. Now by adding a couple simple beveled edges, the design begins to emerge looking a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, inch by inch. Picking out details is a great and easy way to just instantly have a design that looks good. I feel like I could even... There we go. Make it a little more square. Yeah, that works. It almost sort of gives it a Toyota Tacoma front, like, grille when it's squared up like that, and I kind of like that. It's starting to have that pickup truck energy, the utility vehicle energy. Which is basically what this thing is. I mean, this thing is basically your rugged work vehicle that every once in a while someone buys and then straps claymores onto. More or less. You know, it happens. It happens. Time to time. American problems. Here we go. So you've got these segmented armor plates. Here we go. Pull that down. Now we're going to get some details inside the cracks here, but not till I'm satisfied with the general shape. Once I'm satisfied with the general shape, then we start adding more. But not until. Like, I can see as an example, I don't like the way this sits. It's a little bit too off. So by adjusting that just a hair, let's get in here on our block layer. We're gonna erase some of this. Let's get in our detail layer here. There we go. That's a little better. That makes it look a little more even. Now we can get onto the block layer again, get onto our detail layer again. Where the fuck is this layer? That is weird. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. I see what's happening. Gotta get on the detail layer now. Is it on the lighting or the system layer? Where the hell is this? No. Is it on person? It is on person. Scheisse. Okay. A little better. That looks pretty good. Let's get on our detail layer here. Okay. So that gives us our nice, like, sort of hunchback look. Again, we're going something that's positively cyclopean. So, big, hefty, durable. A little hunchbacked. What's the thing that they say? That they say? What's the thing that some folks call it? Hench? When you're just like... You're sort of gorillaed out. It's a little bit of that. This thing's not quite fully there, but it's on the way. It's very hench. There we go. Beautiful. I kind of like the idea of this thing actually having, like, plates that sit over the arms a little bit. Sort of like armored flaps. Almost like Lorica. Because you'll actually see that, or like mud flaps, almost. I think that could be cool. Let me do the same thing here. So we got our little flower pot arms. Now let's get the legs. The legs are going to need the most work, I think. Because I'm the least happy with them. That's how it goes. What gets the most work? The problem child. The problem child gets the most work. Alright, next step. I don't like how boxy that is. I want it to be a little bit more like beveled. Nice, that works, that works. The outside can remain positively boxy, but the interior can't be that boxy. Okay, and then we can sort of just take that. There we go. Okay. So it gives us that nice sort of hydraulic ram sort of look to it. We're going to get our back plates here a little more clearly defined. Nice. All right. We still got to get the forearms here, and I'm going to do that now. Then we're going to add in some more details. There we go. That gives us a shape to the forearm there that feels a little more real. Then we can pull that down. There we go. So we got a nice boxy arm on one side. We're going to get a nice boxy arm on the other. This one's going to be a little more flush with our view. So it's not going to be nearly as dramatic in its shape. There we go. A little too far down on that one. Forearms, but he only has two. Get out of here. I like how, despite the fact that I'm unable to ever pun, my chat is filled with punners. Always. No matter what. I can't escape from it. You all effortlessly do what I cannot do by intention. And for the record, I'm never angry about it. I'm jealous. I want to make that very clear for you. You have a mighty and dangerous eldritch power to which I aspire, and I cannot achieve your goals. I'm simply not funny enough. I'm not funny enough. You guys don't watch me because I'm a comedy channel. I'm not that funny. I can rant. I can rant all day. But if it comes to being witty, pithy even, no. Not for Omni. Omni can't do that. 1,000,001 things I can do, but punning? Psh, that would make me too powerful. I really am jealous of that ability. It's so satisfying to see. Every pun I've ever made was an accident. Absolutely. I swear to God. I have never once been able to pun with the best of them. And when I do, it is a beautiful, rare moment indeed. Okay, let's do the Gundam thing here. Let's do the Gundam thing where our boy's got his, he's got sort of the boob intakes. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to watch Gundam again and look at the dude's chest. Look at the machine's chest. I promise you, it's got boob intakes. That's what it breathes through its chest. I guess technically this would be more like pit intakes, really. That'd be your eternal punishment. Oh God, I want to throw all of you into a volcano for my power, just so that I can gain your power. Not for the power you have, but to pull it into me. I want to beat you into the ground with jade clubs and then eat you like sushi, like a Maori warrior, so that I can gain your mana. Like, I really wish I could do that. Anyway, alas, it's not to be. It's okay. I just have to be in awe of the thing my friends effortlessly do all the time that I can never do. Ugh. It's painful, though. Oh well. Just gonna have to deal with it. I have many consolation prizes. I know at least I piss you guys off with my ability to quickly draw people. Like, especially figures. Not machines. I'm a little too precise for quickly drawing machines. Especially if I want to do, like, you know, any level of detail. I probably could draw machines a lot faster, but I like adding too many details to it. Especially when I'm doing, like, references like this, where I am going to be using it in the future, and thus actually having, like, reliable details is pivotal. So I will go slower, just for legibility for my future self, so I don't hate myself in the future, more than I already do. Yeah. But I do know some of you guys get pissed about that. It makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of does actually make me a little happy that I possess a skill. A lot of people are like, I want it, and I'm like, yes. I know you do. Is that egotistical? It is a little. It is a little. Well, not perfect. What can I say? No one's perfect. But I do very much enjoy the fact that I do possess skill sets that other people can't do. I'm not above teaching them, for the record. I do want to make that very clear. I do not jealously hoard my power. Like, I will gleefully teach anyone how to draw, hence why I do these streams all the time. It really does not bother me in the least to do so. And honestly, I would much rather, you know, quote OMNI Man here, look at what they need to mimic a fraction of our power, gestures to all the computer electronics in the world, and me holding up a like 20-cent Bic pen. Just, sorry, Sanford Uniball pen. Let's take this over here. We're just going to do the same thing. Sort of just pull that back. Now, a lot of this is going to be cast into shadow, for the record. The white highlight is just to make it pop for me right now. So just bear that in mind. All this will be dimmed down. Okay, so this gives us a pretty solid tread. I kind of want the treads to be thicker, because I don't want them to be slippy. I want them to be grippy treads. Thicky treads. Mighty treads. Which tells me I've got to widen it. Widen the base! Fine. So be it. Let it not be said that I do not listen to my heart, for I know the face of my father. It needs to be thicker! More like Vicar. Ha ha ha, Sweeney Todd joke. A Sweeney Todd joke for the audience that I don't know if any of them have ever watched Sweeney Todd or listened to Sweeney Todd. Not the movie was okay, for the record, but the musical version is actually pretty damn good. A lot of you I know, especially right now, would get quite a kick out of it. Go watch that if you get the chance. Sondheim did a good job with it. Okay, so that's a little thicker, but I kind of want it to be even heavier. I need the exterior to be beefier. So yeah, we'll give it like the really thick treads on the outside. There we go. We can increase the weight of the guard on that side to make it like really, really thick. We'll do the same thing on this side. There we go. That feels a little more substantial. I need to be even thicker somehow. Somehow that side is still not thick enough. There we go. That feels a little better. Now that feels a little heftier. That can take an impact. I think that's also part of it. I made those too thin. There we go. And I can sort of add that extra plating on top to cover it. Okay. We're looking a little better now. That's a little heftier. I still want to reinforce the legs a little more, so I'm going to add like an extra spar there that comes down. There we go. That's a tad thicker. I also want to reinforce the hips. Maybe like go with an external spar that goes along that. That actually does significantly increase the mass of this thing. I like the way that that looks. And then I can go in there and give it like the construction... Yeah, there we go. The construction girder look. I like that. If this thing is built like a crane, literally build it like a crane. Why not, right? Give it that durability. Okay. Let's start adding some general shapes onto this. I'm going to add an extra layer onto here. Let's start doing that. 25. Just so we have something that we can work off of a little more. So now that we have shape, we're starting to develop lighting, this might help us get a little more of the dimensions of the machine visible, understandable, interpretable. There we go. Now we're starting to get some of the shapes in it that I was missing. Here we go. I return from drawback a bit. How fares the mech? A little better. We're getting there. I wanted to thicken the legs a little bit. You know, we need him to have. We can't have him skip leg day. When a machine skips leg day, it looks kind of goofy, and I don't want this thing to look goofy. I want this thing to be a little intimidating. So we're fixing that right now. And we're now working on some like light shading. Sort of denote where things sit. And we added an extra spar that runs the length of the leg to increase the shape and the width of it. Make it look a little beefier. go. Nice, nice, nice. Looks good now. We're going to add the tops of these. Feels good. Okay. Now we're starting to get to that weight. A turgid pair of mech legs. Indeed. Thick and mighty. Impressive even. Now we sort of reclaim the shapes of these over here. To make it a little clearer, that's the part that's hitting the light. I kind of don't like the way it looks, though. I still feel unhappy with it, so hold on. I'm going to grab it and bend it a little bit. It's just a little off. Just a little off. There we go. Feels a little bit less wonky now. Yeah. It almost kind of made it look like the elbow was bending. Like, your elbow can't bend like this. It can only bend in that hinge. It's a very specific hinge. Like, most parts of your body can sway a little bit. Like, you actually can bend your, like, most of the joints of your body. Even your knee actually flexes, like, a teeny little bit side to side. You really can't do that with your elbow. It's not made for that. That's a fantastic way to shatter your elbow. So, yeah. I'm gonna fix that, actually. Hold on. I still don't like the overall position of this arm. This arm is my nemesis today. It's a little too far out. There we go. So we do that. Then I go in. I said I go in. Mother of God. Here we go. And then I'm going to go back in again. There we go. Cool. That'll do. And then just like slightly re-angle it a little. That looks a little bit less busted. It's fine. That actually feels a little better now. Yeah, that feels a little closer to center. You can see where it's meant to go. Like, the ball joint is basically hidden. If I were to draw the ball joint over this thing right now, there's a ball joint basically for one arm here. I'm going to put it at 75 here. So there's a ball joint here that runs down the length of that arm into a joint here. And then you have the manipulators, which we're going to deal with. And then on this side, the other ball joint should be right here. And this is why things feel fucked. Because this should have hands like that. So the perspective is fucked. You see, this is what happens. This is what happens when you're drawing. Everyone's will be like, I got it. And then you'll look at it and be like, no, I don't. It's very fucked. Good news is the rest of the proportions seem like they're fine. And adjusting this shouldn't be that difficult. It's just a matter of, yeah, because you got the head. Head's fine. Got the eye. The rest of the torso sits pretty fine there. It's basically a big box. And then down the spine, you have the hips, which that feels right. Ball there, ball there. Proportions are still good. And basically this thing crawls around on its knees. So effectively, its leg is like that, really. It's basically kneeling everywhere. And then there's also a third ball joint in the back, kind of like a tail, that leads to one final leg. Yeah, everything else on this thing is fine. It's just this arm that's turbo fucked. And I don't like that. But at least I see now how I can fix it. Lord, help the terrain after this beast is rolled through the fighting. Oh yeah, there's a reason why the title of this video is Grind Through Your Foes. Like, you're not really... Terrain is kind of a suggestion to this thing. You're not really moving through... Like, you're literally moving through terrain. You're moving through terrain. It is not the thing that is... You're not yielding to terrain. Terrain yields to you in this arrangement. Okay, so that is a little too large. So we're going to grab this. And then we're going to take it, and we're just going to... A little bit more. There we go, look at that. And just like that, it instantly looks way the fuck better. Huzzah. It's amazing what a little repositioning can do for your design. Let's get into our detail layer here. I'm actually going to remove this and make this an empty box. Now we're cooking with gas. Let's go. Get out of here, Mossy. It's ball joints, brother. I hope yours don't have joints. I'm just saying. Alright, so this feels pretty good. At least as far as like the actual shape of this thing goes. And in terms of its armaments, where things are mounted, it actually does have, as I recall, I believe it's either 4 or 6 mounting points. Let's take a look. So, hard points. Hard points. Hard points, hard points, hard points. Here we go. Where is it? It should be here. My mind is glossing over it. System modularity. Haha! There's your hard points. 6 hard points. That's 2 hands, 2 shoulders, and the back. We got it. So. Let's do that. I'm just going to add a little extra onto here. So, if we're denoting where systems go. Hands. Shoulders. And then back mount. Very Armored Core-esque. So, if I was to start adding heavy armor systems to this thing, it theoretically could also mount things down here as well. Just because your mech doesn't use all those points doesn't mean it doesn't have, like, the ability to, you know, like, mount something there, theoretically. So theoretically, both of these joints as well serve as mounting plates for, like, additional armor or subsystems. So if you wanted to add, like, boosters or missile defense systems, what have you. Knees and toes, indeed. Technically, there would be another one on the back end as well. As well as also the lower back area, so basically your lumbar area of the mech also has the possibility to mount things. And theoretically, you could, if you tried, mount something either here or here. But those are intakes and probably best to be left alone. So let's get some system shapes going. We're gonna mount on here. I kind of want to get this thing bigger armor plates, like enhanced armor plating, so... let's give this thing bigger, more durable, like, leg plating. So it can sort of hunker behind it, just for the fun of it. So you've got that. Atlas mech style hip cannon, absolutely. You know, I'm just saying, you could do it. That Gundam Seed has proven a backpack weapon can slide underneath your arms, you can grab it and fire it from your hips. So, and if anyone does not know what I'm talking about, It's like one particular one I keep thinking of where it's like, yeah, here we go. It's like the shoulder-mounted weapons. There's like one particular set that can like swing underneath your hips. Ah, there it is. I knew I would find it somewhere. The multi-phase pulse cannons of Gundam Seed, where like they literally are built in the backpack. The backpack slides them. They kind of swing underneath your hips, so like they hang out back here, but then they just sort of come along the side and you can literally grab them and fire them. That was always really cool. I always liked that idea. I didn't like Gundam Seed, but I liked some of the designs, even though they got really over the top. And I do mean really over the top. Holy cannoli. Some of that stuff got nutty. So we're going to block out some of those. I kind of want to give this guy big cannons. Like them big cannons. Let's take a moment here and grab the whole Atlas. We're going to shrink some component parts of it. At least drag it down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So we have a little more space. And then we'll shrink the whole thing once I feel a little more comfortable with it. So one hell of motion there, Omni. Yeah. Oh, you're good. You're fine. It got pretty silly after a point, but I always loved the Code Geass style mechs. Yeah, me too, actually. Honestly, I feel like a lot of those sort of mech shows are at their best at the beginning. Because the general premise of the machines is so cool that as they develop, like, they sort of start jumping sharks, but the limitations are what made them cool. The Code Geass skating mechs were really fucking awesome. And as they got further and further afield and less needed to, like, move on their wheels, it kind of removed all the grounding from them. Sort of like Pacific Rim, where, like, what was entertaining about the Pacific Rim mechs was that they were so hefty. Was that, like, you know, Gypsy Danger grabbing, like, a giant, like, container ship and using it like a katana, because it made sense. The thing literally shook the earth wherever it walked. Then the second one came and took all that weight out of it by making all the mechs much faster. And so it took that, like, it took the very serious heft out of it. So, like, I feel that, very much so. I figure what we'll do is we'll give this thing bombardment cannons, which are very fun weapons. Bombardment cannons are basically... What if you took, like, a bomb and just magnetically accelerated it as opposed to shooting it with a shell? That's pretty much what one of these things is. A bombardment cannon takes what would normally be an aircraft caliber bomb and just yeets it at you with the power of magnetism. Mind you, I always loved the one mech with a huge claw towards the end. That's very fair. That's valid. Mechs in 86. Let's take a four-legged mech, mount a massive cannon on it, and then give it some ODM gear for a laugh, basically. Yeah, Pacific Rim mechs in the sequel were really floaty. They didn't have any weight to them, which is the exact thing that was so cool about the first one. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna lie. One of my favorite mechs in the first one was Cherno Alpha. I normally hate that kind of blocky, super dense, goofy mech design, but the fact that the thing literally moved like it was supposed to, every step shook the earth. When the thing comes in for an elbow drop, it feels real. It feels hefty. I loved that about it. It was very cool. Let's add some extra plating on here, too. Just for the sake of it. I can pull the plating off, mind you, again. That's kind of the whole point of this thing being designed the way that it is. That I can sort of remove modular components. I think that's actually, now that I think about it, I think that's one of the things that Gundam Wing's designs actually succeed on. Because the show does get, like, its own jumping the shark thing pretty regularly. Gundam tends to jump the shark a lot. However, unlike a lot of other Gundam series, they tend to do so in a way that doesn't invalidate prior things. So, like, whenever I think about, like, the full armor Gundam tradition, right? Where every series of Gundam ends with the titular Gundam, except the original, I think. The original doesn't have a full armor mode on display, usually. They basically strap every gun and missile and thing that they had in the armory onto it, and send it out to fight its final battle, knowing it's probably not coming back. But it looks great, usually. Because even though it's this big mess of guns and armor, that's exactly what it's depicted as. This big mess of guns and armor that's only agile because they strapped chemical rockets to it. And it's basically a torpedo that happens to be flying through space with a humanoid robot in it. So, like, the ends of those shows tend to do pretty good. Gundam Wing does it even better, because their full armor variations of the Gundams are actually just the custom Gundams. Or, what do they call it? Yeah, the custom Gundams from Endless Waltz, or the Kai Gundam versions from the original mechs, from the original series. And they just look like the same mechs, but with a little bit extra armor, and some extra gear. But, like, Death Scythe is still Death Scythe. Sandrock is still Sandrock. Heavy Arms is just Heavy Arms with 2 Gatling barrels on a rifle now. So it looks really good, actually. They really said, what if the Soviet bloc was a mech and ran with it and it worked? Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically. Alright, and then I'm going to give a pile driver to this thing. Because we have the armor system here. I feel like we could go with even more. I want to give this thing, like... Because we have bombardment cannons, which can do crowd control and direct damage. We have a pile bunker, I think would be a good move with this thing. So a punching blade, basically, is what they're usually called. Which is basically the same thing, take a magnetic accelerator and then slam a sharpened X-Acto knife the size of a mech into somebody. It's basically a Qatar, but scaled up for ludicrously large mech use. Here we go. But yeah, no, I genuinely really like when shows do the full armor, heavy armor mech designs well, because it can look so good. And unfortunately, a lot of those other anime in recent history haven't, especially mech anime, they tend not to be as good at it because they don't have as much visual design work, I think, that goes into the core mech and the base principles of what make it work. There's one particular one that I keep thinking about, Aldnoah Zero, that comes up into my head, where like 90% of the show, the human mechs are just clunkers. They're not made to be super agile or super advanced. Like the aliens have literal mechs that can throw black holes or yeet people out of existence. One literally uses the Leidenfrost effect to preternaturally freeze anything that comes within range of it by pulling basically treating itself like a giant radiator, and it literally like destroys shells. It embrittles material as it enters it. So they don't even attack, they just walk through you. But like, the human mechs are always very clunky and required a lot of really careful use. And I loved that. I actually really liked that idea. I thought that was really charming. Flak cannon. That's what this thing needs. This thing needs a flak cannon. Basically, mech-sized shotgun. Mech shotgun go. There we go. Okay, and then I can sort of give this thing a slightly wider barrel, I think, just like a little wider. And then it's going to have, like, a magazine off to the side. There we go. So this gives us a vague idea of what an Atlas-class walker looks like when actually kitted out for open combat. And I kind of like the shape. I like the way it turned out. This actually turned out pretty good. So you got this big, beefy, grinding mech that slides forward on its treads. Literally, it's almost like it's gliding. Boogie boarding! That's what I was thinking about. Boogie boarding. I don't know how many folks know what boogie boarding is, but basically the idea is that, like, a boogie boarder, at most, is on their knees. They don't stand up on a boogie board. They usually, like, at most kneel on it. Yeah, here we go. Boogie boarding. This thing! Like, the most you do is you get on your knees and you glide around. That's basically what we're looking at here for this mech. This thing sort of boogie boards around on its treads, slams into people, and then suplexes the shit out of them. I love this thing. I love the way it's turned out. I'm gonna get a lot more work done on this, for sure, off of stream. But I feel like we've gotten to the point where, like, I think we've gotten to the point where if I do any more work, it's just not going to look that much better. This is a good starting point. So, with that, my friends, I appreciate all of you for tuning in. It means the world to me that you guys always tune into these streams. A huge thank you, as always, to my amazing patrons. At Tier 1, Ampersand Atlas and JJ Cray. At Tier 2, Necronomus and Souls Rolls. And at Tier 3, Mossy the Mighty and Heinrich the Heroic. You guys make my broadcasting possible. You make the work I'm doing on Legacy First Flight possible, and you also make all my other broadcasts viable. You're the guys keeping my roof above my heads and allowing me to make webcomics, so thank you guys. And a huge thank you to everyone on my Patreon, even those of you who are following for free. Please follow me at patreon.com/thelast-omnitect. Even if you do it for free, you get access to all my weekly schedules, so you know what I'm doing that week. You also will get access to my webcomics, including Gentry Delon Ain't No Fascist, my Helldivers anti-fascist webcomic, which is now hit episode 50, update 50, as of this week for paying patrons, who get access to it for 2 weeks early, but even free folks get to read it for free. But generally, everyone who supports me, thank you. It means the world. No matter how much you do, it always makes a difference. Take care, my Voyagers. Have a good one. And I'll see you out there.